Hey guys, I'm kind of picking up where we left off last time for those who said, well, that's interesting, I want to hear more. And that's kind of where my channel goes all the time, is back to first principles. Hey Greg, this is LinkedIn, and I've got, a footprint. Most of us, a lot of us do. And that's where I've notified about my video. Some people have watched it. I don't get a huge amount of views because this is very buried needle in a haystack kind of stuff. And that's to your advantage if you're learning this in order to teach it. It's like not everyone knows it and not everyone's getting it that quickly either. Osmosis is at a finite rate, and I'm not really at all the only one involved here. And you can have been involved in teaching the Bucky stuff for decades, and you and I will not have crossed paths, could be, right? So it's a big enough world for that. But I've been in this domain now for quite some time, so you will find references to my stuff probably. You've come across that probably. So these are slides I was looking at in the previous video and suggesting, okay, where were we going to get started in this with terms of think in terms of nomenclature. With every discipline or every knowledge domain, there seems to come a characteristic way of talking. And I was going to start perhaps with general systems theory. And I found this old WAPO article that uses GST all the time. You might be able to search this up just by typing in Washington Post. Wait, does it see GST, blah, 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 blah? This is an old article, right? And I've got it linked from down inside Synergetics on the web, which, like I said, is an archaeological dig back to the 1990s. But the idea here, and I think it's clever, I think more people should pick up on it then, is that economics, by its own admission, needs to have competition. We learn in the discipline of economics about the evils of monopoly. So that it follows, therefore, that economics itself should feel that competition from another discipline. It's like economics is not alone in dealing with bread and butter issues, right? There's general systems theory too, in competition with economics. And it covers a lot of the same ground, and sometimes you don't know if you're reading one or the other. That's partly in what way they're competitive, is that they cover the same ground. They have some of the same heroes, what Hazel Henderson and stuff, but not necessarily Karl Marx. If you read, what was it, Achieving Our Country by Richard Rorty, one of my professors at Princeton, that's all about going back to like Margaret Fuller and stuff, to the Transcendentalists, to their ambivalence about like empire and so forth, without going through Marxism. Like you can claim a leftist pedigree, as Rorty does in that book, without claiming to be a Marxist, which isn't being anti-Marxist. It's not anti-Marxist to say you're not a Marxist. Just like when I say I'm not a fan of X, that sounds like, oh, you don't like X or you're dissing X. But when I say I'm not a fan of so-and-so, it usually just means I haven't done enough homework to consider myself fans, because a fan. Fan means you've done homework and you know enough to be a fan. Like you're literate about this person. You've studied their life or whatever it is, right? I'm a fan. There's a lot I'm not a fan of because I just haven't put in the time, and I will be someday a fan of, could be. So anyway, like I'm open to new teachers at all times. I'm really looking forward to meeting some of people who I meet through these videos, right? And they get in touch and stuff. So here in Portland, we have this what's called the Portland World Trade Center, and we have what's called the Octet Truss holding things up inside. There's an escalator, so it's pretty big, right? And this is to draw your attention to that architectural skeletal shape called the Octet Truss, or some other things. It's a space frame. But Bucky Fuller had a patent on it for a while, and he was really into it kind of as an alternative to what we all learn in high school as XYZ. And he called this IVM. So it's easy to get those two to sort of resonate together as like two bells, right? XYZ, IVM. And so that's like start there if you want to get your sort of sea legs with synergetics and with the Bucky stuff. Start with the IVM and make sure you know like these are the basic kind of aptitude test things, right? If you were being recruited for like a job in the Chinese Peace Corps, but I don't recruit for them. Like I'm respectful of Peace Corps type operations though. So I'm just saying, rhombic dodecahedra fill space in such a way that you could have a ball in the center of each and they'd be kissing each other through diamond face centers, right? Or maybe I do recruit for them. I can't remember. Like Chinese Peace Corps is a meme that I've been using for a long time. I've got this connection through Detroit on that, actually. So picture a lot of Chinese people or just a program that the Chinese are managing. Maybe they use local people to staff it, where you get free eyeglasses, right? A lot of people don't have eyeglasses. They can't afford it or something like that. And that's just incomprehensible. If you have the capability, if you have the technology, and for a long time the Chinese didn't, right? But now that they do, it's like, why should anyone not have eyeglasses, even if they live in Detroit, that kind of thing. That's just going aside. I'm saying the U.S. needs a lot of help. Like if you're in a Peace Corps in another country and you're looking for a basket case, an underdeveloped country where people are really treated badly, you know where to come. It's like just come to Baltimore or whatever, right? Like, and a lot of Americans are xenophobic, and they're going to hear me saying, I'm inviting Peace Corps from other countries to come help us, and they're going to be, oh my God. So be aware of that. We got a lot of xenophobes here. And they all come from elsewhere too. Like they're not, you go back a few generations, and they're from Poland or something. Nothing against Poland. It's one of the European countries I never got to, though. And then they change the map all the time. So I used to brag I'd been to every European country except Poland and Albania. And then they went and changed the map and made up all these new countries, so I couldn't brag like that anymore. It's kind of a drag. It's like, stop making new countries, but no one listens to me. So I switched. I went to the other side and said, let's make new countries hand over fist, call them virtual nations. They can have their own currency, cryptos. We can create diaspora nations that encircle the globe. Call them corporations, put them into business law if you have to, or find some other language that can, formalize a long-term system. I try to stay away from quote unquote white man law when it comes to like global data corporation. Anyway, old hat, stuff you've heard me say a million times on this channel, POV Ray. I'm just saying if you're new and you're wondering what kind of shop talk to pick up on, IVM. Don't just think XYZ. And then tune in the polyhedron matrix here around any sphere. Like pick a sphere, any sphere, and tune in these nested concentric polyhedra that we like to talk about all the time. And talk about their volume in particular, their relative volume, with the tetrahedron being our starting volume, edges 1, volume 1, right? So further reading and so on. Where am I? I'll put this link for you in the description, and you can just sort of scan through it and sort of pick up where we're coming from in terms of math, right? So there's this good place to stop right there. So I make these with POV Ray and then string together the frames into animated GIFs. And that's the kind of payoff you get for quote unquote doing your homework is do whatever kind of art you do, right? Including learning this kind. And I'm not saying, like, I could use a lot more Blender skills. You could do this in Blender, and I'm doing it not in Blender. So we come up to an edge where I have, my definite limitations, which is why I'm looking forward to learning or getting to use more of your slides out there. People who do know how to do things that I can't or don't know how to do as a solo artist. I'm always looking to get the same concepts across, though. And there's going to be a lot of ferment in that area as people show off, the tetrahelix as the blockchain, that connection. Keep an eye out. Like I said, all right, talk to you later.